Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi. We're in the Gemara, tractate Avodah Zarah. We are in Daf 28. So at the end of 27, we said the Gemara examines various circumstances in which one is permitted to receive treatment from a Gentile. So Rabbi Bar Chana says that Rabbi Yochanan says with regard to any injury for which Shabbat is desecrated, one may not be treated by Gentiles. And there are those who say that Rabbi Bar Chana says that Rabbi Yochanan says with regard to any internal injury, one may not be treated by them. The Gemara asks, what is the difference between the two? We're in 28 now. What is the difference between the two versions of Rabbi Yochanan's statement? There is a difference between them with regard to the case of one who was injured on the back of the hand or the back of the foot. As Rav Ada bar Matana says, that Rav says, injuries to the back of the hand and the back, that is the top of the foot, are like an internal injury, and one may desecrate Shabbat for their treatment. The Gemara inquires, for what point on the body is a wound considered an internal injury? So Rabbi Ami explained, from the lips inward. Rabbi Eliezer raises a dilemma. With regard to the afflictions located in the gums or the teeth, what is the halacha? Do we say that since they are located in firm parts of the body, they are similar to external injuries, or perhaps we say that since they are situated within the mouth, they are similar to internal injuries? Abaye said, Tashema, come in here for a proof from a Mishnah. So Shabbat 111a. One who is concerned about pain in his teeth may not sip vinegar through them on Shabbat for medical purposes, as it is generally prohibited by rabbinic law to perform acts of healing on Shabbat. Abaye infers it is only when he is merely concerned about pain in his teeth that he may not treat them, which indicates that if it hurts him greatly, it is permitted to seek treatment. The Gemara rejects this inference. Perhaps the Tana also characterizes a situation where it hurts one greatly as one of mere concern. The Gemara suggests a different proof. Tashema, come in here. The following incident, Rabbi Yochanan suffered from the illness Zafdina, which affects the teeth and gums. He went to a certain Gentile woman, so a matron, who was a well-known healer. She prepared a medicine for him on Thursday and Friday. Rabbi Yochanan said to her, what shall I do tomorrow, meaning on Shabbat, when I cannot come to collect the medicine from you? She said to him, you will not need it. And Rabbi Yochanan asked her, if I do need it, what shall I do? She said to him, take an oath to me that you will not reveal the remedy, and I will tell you so that you can prepare it yourself since you need it. Rabbi Yochanan took an oath to her, to the God of the Jews I will not reveal it. She revealed the remedy to him. On the following day, Rabbi Yochanan went out and taught it publicly, revealing the secret of the remedy, of course. The Gemara challenges, but Rabbi Yochanan took an oath to her that he would not reveal her secret. The Gemara explains that his vow meant, I will not reveal it to the God of the Jews. So I'll read that again. To the God of the Jews, I will not reveal it. Okay, which indicates, but I will reveal it to his people, the Jews. The Gemara challenges, but even so, isn't there a desecration of God's name, as the matron now thinks that a great man of Rabbi Yochanan's stature violated his vow? The Gemara answers that he revealed it to her at the outset. So as soon as she disclosed the remedy to him, he informed her that his vow would not prevent him from publicizing it. With regard to the issue at hand, the Gemara infers, apparently an affliction that affects the gums is similar to an internal injury, as it was permitted for Rabbi Yochanan to prepare the remedy on Shabbat. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said, Zafdina is different since it begins in the mouth and ends in the intestines. That is, the disease spreads until it infects one's intestines, and therefore it is considered an internal affliction even while it is only in the mouth. Consequently, the incident involved Rabbi Yochanan affords no proof, and Rabbi Eliezer's dilemma remains unresolved. The Gemara requires, what are the symptoms of Zafdina? If one places an item between his teeth, blood flows from the rows of teeth. From what does it result? It results from the consumption of very cold wheat foods and from very hot barley foods and from remains of fried fish. With what remedy did the Gentile matron treat Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Acha, son of Rava, said, it was water in which leaven was steeped, olive oil and salt. And Mar bar Rab Ashi said, she smeared goose fat over his gums with a goose feather. So Abaye said, I prepared all these medicines and was not cured from the ailment until a certain Arab told me the remedy for it. Take olive seeds that are less than 1/3 ripe and burn them in fire on top of a new hoe and stick them along the row of gums. I did this and was cured. It was stated above that Rabbi Yochanan sought the medical attention of a Gentile. The Gemara asked, and how could Rabbi Yochanan do so? But doesn't Rabba Bar Chana say that Rabbi Yochanan says, with regard to any injury for which Shabbat is desecrated, one may not be treated by Gentiles. So Dafdina is a disease for which Shabbat is desecrated, and yet Rabbi Yochanan was treated by a Gentile. The Gemara answers, an important person such as Rabbi Yochanan is different, as Gentiles would not dare to kill him. The Gemara questions this, but Rabbi Abahu was an important person, yet Yaakov the heretic placed upon his leg a salve that was actually a poison. And if it were not for Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi who licked his leg to remove the poison, his leg would have had to be amputated. Apparently, Yaakov the heretic attempted to kill Rabbi Abahu despite the fact that Rabbi Abahu was an important person. The Gemara explains the healer of Rabbi Yochanan was an expert physician who would not jeopardize her reputation by harming him. The Gemara rejects this explanation, but the healer of Rabbi Abahu was also an expert physician. The Gemara answers the case involving Rabbi Abahu is different, as heretics establish within themselves the attitude of "let me die with the Philistines." Judges 16:30. The heretics are willing to risk their lives in order to hurt Jews due to their religious disputes. By contrast, Gentiles will not jeopardize their own reputation for this purpose, and therefore was permitted for Rabbi Yochanan to be treated by the matron. The Gemara lists a series of afflictions and remedies. Shmuel said this gash caused by a sword is considered a danger to one's life, and one may desecrate Shabbat for its treatment. The Gemara asks, what is the remedy for this wound? To stop the blood flow, one should consume cress soaked in vinegar. To cause flesh to emerge over the gash, one applies a salve made of yavla scrapings and thornbush scrapings, and a salve made from worms of the trash. So Rav Safra said, these grape-like boils are the forerunners of Parvanka, the angel of death. That is, they often precede one's death. So the Gemara asks, what is the remedy? The remedy is either a tigna, so a plant soaked in honey or barley, in honey or barley soaked in wine. So in the meantime, while the plants are soaking, one should bring a grape of the same size and rub it on the boil. A white grape for a white boil and a black grape for a black boil. The Rava said, this abscess or simta is the forerunner of fever. The Gemara asks, what is the remedy? One should snap the boil 60 times with his fingers. So click one's fingers on the boil, and then he should tear it vertically and horizontally. The Gemara comments, and this statement applies only in a case where the head of the abscess has not whitened, but if its head was whitened, we have no problem with it. That is, it is in the process of healing, and it does not pose any danger. So Rabbi Yaakov suffered from hemorrhoids. Rabbi Ami instructed him, and some say that Rabbi Asi instructed him that he should bring 7 seeds of ice plant that are red like a worm, and bind them in the collar of a shirt, and then he should wrap the stripe of hair around it and dip the bundle in white naphtha, and he should burn it and spread the ashes upon the sores. In the meantime, he should bring a kernel of a brabble fruit and place its crevice along its own crevice, that is, the bum. The Gemara remarks, in this matter, applies only to the upper crevice, which is located at the outer edge of the bum, and can be treated with bramble fruit. Which one do if he is experiencing pain in the lower crevice, located deeper within the rectum? He should bring the fat of the goat that is not yet opened, that is given birth, and he should melt it, and then he should apply it to the irritated area. And if this is not possible, he should bring 3 pumpkin leaves that were dried in the shade, and he should burn them, and then he should spread the ashes upon the irritated area. If this is not possible, he should bring snail shells instead, and if this is not possible, he should bring oil mixed with wax, and he should smear it upon worn wax clothing in summer or worn cotton clothing in winter, and place it upon the irritated area. Rabbi Abahu suffered from the pain in his ear. Rabbi Yochanan instructed him, and some say that the other sages from the study hall instructed him how to heal it. The Gemara asked him, what did they instruct him? They told him to act in a fashion similar to that which Abaye said. My mother told me that the kidneys are created only for the ear. That is, it can be extremely beneficial to the ear. And Rava said, Min Yomi, the physician, said to me, all liquids are harmful to the ear except for the liquid of the kidneys. Therefore, Rabbi Abahu would bring the kidney of a bald goat, and and tear it vertically and horizontally, and then place it upon dimming coals. And as for those fluids that issue from it, he should apply them to his ear while they are neither cold nor hot, but tepid. The Gemara adds, and if this is not possible, he should bring the fat of a large beetle and melt it and apply it to the ear. And if not, he should fill his ear with oil and prepare 7 wicks made of alfalfa and bring dried garlic ends and tie the ends to the wicks with a strip of hair at the one end and set the wicks aflame. And he should place the other side of each wick in his ear one at a time and place his ear opposite the flame. Parenthetically, the Gemara notes, and he should be cautious of drafts and avoid them, as they will harm his ear. The Gemara continues, and he should take 1 wick and remove 1 wick. Replace each wick as it is consumed until all 7 have been used. The Gemara represents another version of this remedy, and if not, he should bring 7 wicks of wax tapers and smear them with alfalfa oil and place one end of each wick in the flame on the one end of his ear, and take 1 wick and remove 1 wick. And again, he should be cautious of drafts. And if this is not possible, he should bring fiber that was dried but not combed and place it in his ear. And then bring his ear opposite the flame, and he should be cautious of drafts. And if not, he should bring the tube of an aged reed that is 100 years old. That is, it has been detached from the ground for a century, and salt it with rock salt, and then bury it and stick it in his ear. So the Gemara adds, and your mnemonic to remember these remedies is moist cures prescribed for dry afflictions and dry cures prescribed for moist afflictions. The Gemara returns to the issue of medical treatment on Shabbat. So Rabbi Bar Zutra says that Rabbi Hanina says one may raise his ears to the appropriate position and set his dislocated jaw on Shabbat. Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda teaches, this applies only if one raises it by hand and not by means of medicine. There are those who say the opposite. One may raise his ears by means of medicine and not by hand. What is the reason that one may not manually raise the ear? It is because doing so might injure Zarah, the ear, which would constitute a violation of Torah law, whereas applying medicine is a violation of rabbinic law. Rav Zutra Bar Tovia says that Rav says, with regard to an eye that rebelled, that is, which is apt to pop out of its socket, it is permitted to apply blue eyeshadow to it on Shabbat. The sages initially concluded from this that this statement applies only where one had already ground the ingredients yesterday, that is on Erev Shabbat, but if he planned to grind them on Shabbat or to bring them through a public domain, it would not be permitted, as this would constitute the desecration of Shabbat by Torah law. To dispel this notion, one of the sages named Rabbi Yaakov said to them, this matter was explained to me by Rav Yehuda, who said that even if he plans to even if he has plans to grind the ingredients on Shabbat and bring them through a public domain, it is permitted. So the Gemara relates that Rav Yehuda permitted someone to apply blue eyeshadow to the eye on Shabbat. So Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda said to the sages, one who adheres to the ruling of Yehuda desecrates Shabbat. Ultimately, Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda himself suffered pain in his eye. He sent messenger to Rav Yehuda asking, is it permitted or prohibited for me to treat my eye on Shabbat? So Rav Yehuda set back to him, for everyone else, it is permitted. For you, it is permitted. As you treated my lenient ruling with disdain. So Rav Yehuda continues, but was it of my own accord that I issued this ruling? It is the ruling of Mar Shmuel, as demonstrated in the following incident. There was a certain maidservant who was in the house of Mar Shmuel, whose eye became infected on Shabbat. She screamed in pain, but there was no one who attended to her. Eventually, her eye popped out of its socket. The next day, Mar Shmuel went out and taught. With regard to an eye that rebelled, it is permitted to apply blue eyeshadow to it on Shabbat. What is the reason for this leniency, seen as one may desecrate Shabbat only to treat life-threatening afflictions? The reason is that tensions of the eye are dependent upon the values of the heart. So the Gemara asks, what ailment of the eye, for example, is considered life-threatening? Rav Yehuda said, for example, any of the following: abnormal discharge, sensation of prickling blood, blood flow from the eye, excessive tearing, and inflammation in the onset of infection. This list serves to exclude the final stages of waning infection that is mostly healed in the opening of the eye, so treatment administered to improve one's eyesight, which are not life-threatening, and therefore one is not prohibited to treat them on Shabbat. So, the last paragraph says, Rabbi Yehuda says, with regard to one who suffers from the sting of a hornet, or the prick of a thorn, or an abyss, or one whose eye pains him, or one overcome by a fever, bathed in a bathhouse that is life-threatening, chapter for all of these. Accordingly, eating radish or chama is good for a fever, but the reverse. So, eating radish when one has chills or beats when one has a fever poses a danger. Similarly, eating hot foods is good for the sting of a scorpion, and cold foods are good for a hornet sting. So, but the reverse poses a danger. Hot water is good for a thorn embedded in one's skin, and cold water is good. That is the end of Daf 28.